Yeah. Arrow's definitely back, guys. That's for sure. Intro. Hey guys, remember the season finale of Arrow, Season 5, Episode 23, Lian, you, and holy shit, what a finale this was. I mean, you guys know, I have really been on board with this season. I think this has easily been the best season since the first two. This episode confirms that this is by far the best season of Arrow. I mean, this episode was just... I don't know where to begin, honestly. Look, Supergirl was a good finale. Flash was a good finale. This is how you do a fucking season finale. This is everything I wanted this finale to be. It was game-changing. It was emotional. It was heartbreaking. And especially that ending. I mean, I don't even know where to go with this episode. But this episode really had everything I wanted. By far, the best episode of the season. Look, I thought Kaipusian was going to be the best episode. This fucking topped it. In every way, this topped it. And I loved everything that we got here. Let's just get into this episode because there is literally so much that happened in this episode, and I don't really know where to start. I guess we'll just start at the beginning. We see right where the last episode left off, where Oliver is releasing Slade, and he knocks out the Argus guard assigned to keep him in his cell, and Slade says that the mirror crew that drove him insane has actually worn out, and that it all kind of feels like a bad dream. As we know, that's what's happened to Slade, that he had the mirror crew in him, and now he kind of seems like that he's kind of like put that behind him, and he's ready to turn over a new leaf, and immediately this shows why Oliver would trust Slade, because Slade is off that mirror crew. That's the thing that caused him to go insane in the first place, and now he's off it. He's back to that normal Slade persona, because we know, pre-Lian, when they were on the island, he was basically a mentor figure to Oliver, and they had that really good sort of like second father relationship with Slade, and the episode really does a great job, really taking that to their advantage. Now, it was great to see Slade back here. He asks why Oliver didn't kill him for killing his mother, but Oliver gives Slade a flash drive containing info on Slade's son, Joe, and you can tell immediately that Oliver just doesn't care. He's put all this behind him. Like, sure, yes, Slade killed his mother, but, I mean, this is desperate times. I mean, his entire team is now captured, and he needs to do whatever he can to recruit this army, and he says that he wants to find both their sons and give Deathstroke his old armor, and he explains to him the situation about what's going on with Chase and everything, and how he has all of his friends hostage, and obviously, he has Slade's son. He gives Deathstroke his old armor, and immediately, this very well started the episode. I love the way this was done. I forgot how much I really did miss Slade on the show, but like I said, they really do take the time to fully flesh out this dynamic. I really love the way the show did that, and by bringing Slade back, it really does bring back this part of Oliver, and really to show how far he's come, and that was something that this episode, again, really does a fantastic job with, is really showing the progression of Oliver's character throughout this show. So Oliver then brings his new recruit Slade, and apparently he's also been able to get Digger Harkness, which does actually make a lot of sense. At first I was like, oh, that's a bit far-fetched, but again, the show really did do a good job in showing how he would have gotten him. As we know, Harkness was also locked up in the same place that Slade was, in that prison. I can't think of the name of it right now, but he was in that prison, and he was able to get him out of there, again, because he needs as strong as an army as possible. He doesn't really care who it is, as long as they are on his side, and he knows that they're not going to go betray him and go to Chase's, he will do whatever it takes to take down Chase, and they meet up with Nyssa and Malcolm, and an RPG then flies in from the forest and literally destroys his plane, which is their only ride home, mind you. So immediately, you see Chase is not playing around, and if anything this episode shows is that Chase really has taken the time to make Oliver's life a living hell. I mean, we've seen that throughout the entire season, but this episode particularly really does show how far Chase is willing to go. I mean, it is insane what he's willing to do, but we then get a flashback, and what's great about the flashbacks all season is how much they've been in contrast to what Oliver's done. In this episode, more than ever, I think that really was a big part of the flashbacks here, because as you guys know, this most likely is the end of the flashbacks, and I'm going to talk about that when we get to the end of this episode, along with a lot of other things, because I have a lot to say about this episode, obviously. But specifically the flashbacks, I did like the way they sent things off here. We see Kovar, he discovers that Oliver has escaped his prison, and which is subsequently the same prison that I believe Slade and Harkness were in, but he orders his men to find him, and Oliver makes a beeline to his trunk in the woods, but Kovar's men find him, and they corner him. So again, we see that Oliver wasn't as clever as he definitely was clever, but he wasn't as sneaky as he was. He wasn't as experienced as he was, and he didn't really have a team. At this point, he was doing it all on his own. And what Oliver's realized throughout the season is that he does need a team. He can't possibly take on Chase on his own. I mean, it's impossible. Chase has a very well-established army of very threatening figures from Oliver's past, and he has a very strong army as well, and he needs to somehow even out the odds of that. So, in the present day, Oliver then splits up his new Arrow team to find his son, and the other hostages, which I understand why he did that, obviously, so that way they could all kind of be ready, because he knows that there obviously are more than just Chase. There's, Black Siren, there's Talia al Ghul. Any of them could find them and cause, immediate ramifications to what's going on. And I love that Nyssa and Malcolm, I love their interplay of Nyssa and Merlin. I thought it was just a lot of fun to watch, of them not really wanting to work together. We see they quickly have to put that aside, though. I mean, they're kind of realizing that, sure, they don't want to work together, but, I mean, there's a lot at stake here. Merlin's son could die, and obviously Nyssa doesn't want that. So, Deathstroke, Digger, and Oliver find Felicity, Thea, Curtis, and William's mother, Samantha, in cages, which I was wrong, guys. She's actually not dead. I'm actually glad the show didn't kill her, because sure, we have spent a lot of time with Samantha, but if she died in this episode, I just don't think it would have been that satisfying, honestly. I think it made a lot more sense to keep her around, but they quickly discover that it's actually just a trap, that it's simply just a trap to lure them back in, and I love that they made us think that they were free. And on a lesser show, that's what would have happened here. If this was Supergirl, The Flash, oh yeah, they would have gone down no problem, and they would have been fine by now. And I thought this episode was going to be very rushed at first, but this actually further enhances the tension, because we see it's just a trap. Artemis and Talia then spring down from a tree, and Digger reveals that he was working for Chase all along, we find out, which that was a brilliant twist. I love that we found that out. The Digger was actually on Chase's side, and again, it's not really Oliver's fault. Oliver just freed anyone he could from the prison because he needed as strong as army as possible. And as far as he knew, Digger was not someone that would come back to haunt him. But as we see, Chase is willing to get anyone he can to go against Oliver. And seeing Digger betray Oliver, it made a lot more sense and was a lot more unpredictable than Slade being the one to do it. I like that Digger was the one to do that and not Slade. It just made for a lot more unpredictable and really made this even more riveting than it was. So Digger and Talia then offer Slade a chance to switch sides, and Deathstroke seemingly does do that. It seems like he's willing to switch sides here, and I'm like, alright, there's no way he's going to switch sides that easily. After everything that him and Oliver have been through, there's just no way. I mean, obviously, we know he's off the Mirror Crew. There's no reason for him to switch sides. Like, what good is it really gonna do to ally with Chase? I get it for Digger. He doesn't really have much of a relation with Oliver to begin with, but Deathstroke really does. I mean, again, he was very much a mentor figure to Oliver, and he beats up Digger, we see, and reveals that he really only did this to disarm Digger, and I love that we found that out. And Oliver then stops Talia from killing Samantha, and she was like really close too. Like, I genuinely thought she was gonna kill Samantha. And there are a ton of close calls this episode, but they're not false. Like, they're not there to just be like, oh, this person's gonna die, oh, this person's gonna die. It's there to further trigger that darkness in Oliver. That's really what a big part of this episode is, that everyone's trying to get that darkness out of Oliver that he has been trying to, to get that to dispense out of him. He's been doing everything he can to extinguish it, and everyone is trying to, get that persona of him to manifest, and obviously he's trying to get that to go away, and, he's trying to negate it so as best as he can. So Nyssa and Merlin then show up, and Talia and Harkness then escape in a puff of smoke. We don't know what happened to them, but we then see a flashback to when Oliver uses a knife to kill most of Kovar's men. He then escapes to the woods with a rifle, and Kovar heads after him to finish him. So he's just not going to let Oliver get away. It's not that easy. And again, I love how uneasy this process really is for Oliver. I mean, he really thinks he has Kovar where he needs him, but obviously we see that's not the case. So back in the present day, Deathstroke puts Artemis in a cage so Oliver can interrogate her, and I like that Artemis was the one in the cage, because Artemis really, out of everyone here, she is definitely the weakest. She's just someone who joined forces with Chase because he told her to, and she wasn't really willing to work with Oliver. And ever since then, I mean, things obviously haven't been good between Evelyn and Oliver, and Oliver then sends Courtesy and Felicity to find the plane that they came with, and he sends Merlin with them to keep them safe, because he knows that Merlin is not going to go work for Chase. I mean, he has no reason to. Merlin kidnapped his daughter. Why the hell would he work with someone who kidnapped his daughter? It just makes no sense. And Merlin even said to Oliver that he knew better from Dark. So again, a lot of what Oliver was doing here was very smart, and you can understand that Oliver, he was trying to be very careful, and he knows that he can trust Merlin because of the conversation that they had. And we see Felicity, and she kisses Oliver before she leaves, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, that was fan service. That was just for the Felicity fans. Listen, guys, most of the Felicity fans don't really exist anymore, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about when people are saying that. If they do say that, I feel like a lot of people are going to say that, because everyone complains about anything when it comes to Felicity, but honestly, I thought this made a lot of sense. The two have been growing closer lately, and think about this, guys. Felicity does not know if she's ever going to see Oliver again. Think about it. Their plane's destroyed. Felicity's been captured. She knows that Chase wants Oliver dead, so if she has to, if this might be the last time she sees Oliver, she obviously wants to send him off in the best way possible. I thought it made a lot of sense for her to do that. She's saying that he doesn't want to regret anything else about the relationship. He just wants to put it aside. They don't have anything really to regret now. They're not in a relationship right now, and I like that. Like he said, I don't want to put labels on anything, because then he'll have something else that he needs to regret, and there's already so much regret building up inside of him, and you really do feel that throughout this episode. This entire episode is Oliver just regretting every choice that he's ever made. Every life choice that he's made is coming back to haunt him in the spur of seconds, and he doesn't really know what to do. It's all so overwhelming, but you can understand why this is so overwhelming for him, and I thought that was definitely, again, very well handled here. Just seeing that darkness slowly coming out of him, and him really trying to channel that more positive side and the more optimistic attitude that he's had throughout most of the season. See that Black Siren is actually the one who took Diggle and Lance hostage to a monastery on the island where Renee and Dinah are also being held. And honestly, this does make a lot of sense. As we know, last week we saw Black Siren pretend to be Laurel, and this obviously fooled Lance into thinking it was her. So it really is not that far-fetched, and it makes a lot of sense. While Chase is a very powerful man, it is humanly impossible for him to be able to literally capture everyone on the team. Obviously, he needed some help, and it made sense why Black Siren was the one to do that. And I like that we did find out where Dinah and Renee were, because they were the two where I was kind of like, I didn't know really where the show was going with them, but I like that they did quickly reveal that. So Nyssa, Slade, and Oliver try tracking Talia through the woods, but they lose the trail, and Nyssa then runs ahead, and Slade decides to give the time to give Oliver a pep talk. And this pep talk, I think, really is summing up a lot of this season, honestly, because most of the season has been focused on Oliver's past and how much that past does haunt him and how much he connects himself to it. What Slade says here, I think, really does show the direction the show might be going from here, where he says that Oliver is suffering essentially from survivor's guilt. The fact that his father was the one to survive on that boat and Oliver lived. I think that's something that's traumatized Oliver ever since. That's kind of been the catalyst for everything that he's done. And since then, that's when he started killing. That's when he started getting involved in everything we've seen. Even the boring stuff last year, that was all after his father died. And Slade really does have a point here where that's really the thing that's connected all of this together, and that Oliver's past is just going to keep haunting him until he really does forgive himself. And until he's able to do that, then this stuff is just going to keep coming back in his face. And until he realizes that and accepts that his father died and he really had nothing to do with it, and it was circumstances that he just couldn't prevent, then he will be able to move on. But until then, unfortunately, this is just going to keep traumatizing him. And I loved this talking to with Oliver. Again, I forgot how great that dynamic really was, and it's one of those things where you really don't remember how vital and important and how much it adds to a show until it truly is gone. And that's something that Slade really does well for Oliver, that he always done a great job with these pep talks, and now that Slade is on his side, it just really did add to the overall emotional weight of this episode. That's something this episode he's taken has been because of his father died and he can't really do anything about it. Then he's just going to keep living in this sorrow and despair, and he needs to get out of that. And I thought that was just incredible to see. So Samantha then tracks down Felicity. There wasn't any animosity between Samantha and Felicity, because I was really worried when Samantha lived. I'm like, oh great, we're gonna get some really dumb subplot between her and Felicity, because it's too, like, Samantha and Felicity were gonna have this talk. Now, Felicity's moved past it. She knows that obviously Samantha, was in Oliver's life a while ago, and she really needs to stay out of it. So I like that Felicity really did mind her. He could possibly be dead. She's gonna stay there regardless. And meanwhile, we get another really thrilling twist where Thea steps on a landmine while arguing with Merlin. Merlin is clearly trying to talk to her. She doesn't really want him. And again, I love the scene with Thea and Oliver where she's telling Oliver that she really doesn't want to ally with Merlin. It's understandable why, obviously. I mean, Merlin is the guy who, made her kill Sarah and made her channel that darkness in her. And again, she still does feel it's a part of her. Merlin is really the one to blame for all of that, and I love that, again, this really did end this unexpected way. It's just one of those episodes that just keeps propelling energy more and more, and there's just more and more tension throughout this entire episode, and I think this twist, again, was a very necessary direction to go in. Because rather than us get some really repetitive fight between Merlin and Thea, Merlin decides to take a more heroic direction where he actually offers to switch places with her and forcibly switches with her because she refuses. She says, look, I forgive you. I understand, yes, what you did is wrong, and I forgive you for it. You don't have to prove anything to me. But Merlin doesn't feel that way, and it's understandable why. I mean, after everything that Merlin's done, I think he feels he needs to die a hero's death. He needs to just go out this way. And he says that all he's ever wanted was to protect her, and even when he made her channel that darkness, it was to protect her, and he tried to take that for granted. And I think he's realizing they need to protect her, and she tries to argue with her more, but they're interrupted with the arrival of Digger and some of Chase's men, and Merlin then orders them to leave. And when Digger approaches, Merlin actually detonates the landmine, and it seemingly kills them both. So yeah, Merlin might actually be dead. And look, I don't know what the end of this episode entails. I'll get into that in a little bit. But I do think Merlin's dead. I think it just makes sense for them to do that. John Barrowman has said he's not returning to the show. He said that he's done what he needed to do. I've said it before that Merlin doesn't really work as a main character. I don't really think they ever really knew how to utilize him that well. But if this really is the end of Merlin, I don't think they could have done this in a more satisfying direction, where he really did it for Thea. Everything he did in the show, when we eventually found out the connection between him and Thea, it was for Thea. He did whatever he could to protect her. He did whatever he could to, try to control her. And I think he's realizing that he can't control her, but he does need to protect her. And I loved the way that was done. And, again, Digger's dead, Merlin's dead. It just felt very final. Like, this honestly did feel very final. And it didn't feel, yes, it felt abrupt, but I don't think you couldn't have made this abrupt. I mean, you step on a landmine, that's kind of it. Like, if you step on it, you're dead. That's just kind of how it works. So Nyssa, Slade, and Oliver then find the plane that Oliver and Slade lived in for a while. If you remember back in Season 2, they actually lived in this plane. And Nyssa then points out the monastery in the distance, and in a flashback we see Oliver. He's killing more of Kovar's men until Kovar comes after him with a helicopter. And again, it's really showing how different Oliver is handling this. He hasn't killed anyone at this point. Think about it. There hasn't been a single person that Oliver has killed. Yeah, he might have maybe abused some people, and he's definitely roughed some people up, but he hasn't straight up killed anyone, because that's just going to make things worse. And he already has so many deaths on him that haunts him constantly. Why would he kill someone else? Why would he do that to himself? And again, it kind of just all goes back to what Slade says, that the second he, decides to move away and move on from the past, then he'll be able to stop his suffering. So Slade and Nyssa enter the monastery, and Oliver tells Nyssa to split up. And as soon as Nyssa leaves, Slade then knocks Oliver out and tells an approaching Black Siren he has a gift for Chase. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is Slade suddenly betraying Oliver? But we see Slade and Black Siren drop Oliver off in the second second prisoner room. So again, this was Oliver's way of getting to Chase, and I love this. I love that this was all kind of Oliver's choice, that he wanted Slade to betray him so he could get to them, and he catches Diggle, Renee, Dinah, and Lance up on everything that happened, and meanwhile in a flashback you see he shoots down the helicopter with his gun, and Thea is then mourning the death of Merlin, and she really doesn't have much time to do that. It's very quick, but Felicity does comfort her by saying that Merlin proved that he did love his daughter, and that's something that Thea always, didn't really know. She wishes that she could have seen more of this Merlin instead of Psycho Killer, and that's kind of the Merlin she's always known. I mean, think about it. Merlin season 1 was just this killer, and he killed Tommy, and I mean, that's kind of how she's always seen him. She's never really seen Merlin as someone who is good-natured. She's always seen him as this killer, and even though she wanted to see the good in her father, he would always do something to, ruin that, and she's always tried to, maybe see that better side of him, and finally, he did do that. It was just simply too late, and again, it really was a fantastic end to the character, and it very well did feel final. I doubt that we're going to see Merlin again, and when all is said and done, I do think Merlin is dead, and I don't think there is a better way to kill him off than how they did. So, Curtis then finds the plane, but then he quickly discovers that Chase has planted radio-controlled C4 throughout the entire island. And again, it just shows how much, Chase doesn't care. I've said it before. Everyone at this point is disposable to Chase. The second that Oliver killed, Chase killed his own wife. Oliver didn't do that. Chase killed his own wife. Everyone is disposable to him. He doesn't care. So Oliver gives Dinah her sonic dampener, which I loved how much Dinah did enjoy that. She said how much she loved Curtis and everything because of what he did for her. And she used that to bust everyone out of their chains, and that was awesome. I love that she was able to do that on her own. Talia hears Dinah scream, but she's confronted by Nyssa, and we finally get that big battle we have been waiting for. We see them square off in a one-on-one sword fight, and Nyssa's getting the upper hand on Talia. Deathstroke runs in to take out Talia's other assassins. It was awesome. It was truly everything we have been waiting to see when it comes to the Nyssa-Talia tension throughout the season. Ever since we knew Talia was alive, we've always wanted that one-on-one between these two. Ever since we knew Talia al Ghul was a character in this world, I think we've all been looking forward to seeing this fight, and it definitely did pay off here. So Oliver then shows up with the other prisoners, and he explains he needed Deathstroke to betray him so that he could get the dampener to Dinah. That's the only reason he needed to do that. So, however, Deathstroke unfortunately couldn't find William in the monastery, and when Oliver says they need to find Chase, we see immediately Chase just walks in with a ton of assassins and Black Siren, and then we get to the climax that we have been waiting for all season long, where we see Chase. He says that Oliver will have to kill him to find William, and that's how it's going to go. But as we know, Oliver's just not going to do that. I mean, that's what Chase wants him to do. So Oliver's not going to kill him, which sparks the start of a major fight, and we get this incredibly well-done fight scene that honestly might be the best scene we've ever seen on the show, and I'll tell you why it might be my favorite fight scene, because it is so simplistic. Take that to the likes of last season when we had these like clusterfuck of fight scenes with like 6 people fighting. I mean, this was very simplistic because it was just Oliver's army versus Chase's army, and it wasn't too confusing. Like, it made sense who fought who, and we see Chase says that Oliver, and we get very well intercut with another flashback where Oliver's fighting a wounded Kovar. He tries to kill him with his rifle, and Oliver's unfortunately out of bullets, and the two start fighting again, and meanwhile, Dinah is fighting Black Siren in a scream-off, which I thought made a lot of sense, obviously. Black Siren's getting the upper hand, but Lance quickly knocks Black Siren out from behind before she can finish Dinah off, and again, just little moments like that, such a good moment for Lance, him coming around after thinking that Black Siren was just as vulnerable as Laurel, realizing how just deadly she really is, and how important Dinah really is to this team, and him giving her that respect, and I just thought it was just a really satisfying arc there. So we see Oliver, he fights Chase in the present day, and Kovar in flashbacks. Oliver gets Kovar and Chase in the same headlock, which that was pretty awesome the way it was done. He snaps Kovar's neck in the flashback. He very quickly, it seems like he's about to do that to Chase, and I'm like, don't kill Chase. If Oliver were to kill Chase in this episode, it would have made this entire season pointless. It really would have. And I would not be here praising this episode. It's because of this scene that this episode was as satisfying as it really was, and he ultimately refuses to kill Chase. He will not do it. He downright refuses, and he tells Chase that he might have been a killer before, but that's not who he is now. Yes, he kills sometimes, but that's only when he has to, and now he just doesn't want to do it anymore, and Oliver says that Chase can blame him for his father's death, but Oliver isn't going to blame himself anymore, because again, it all goes back to what Slade says, that when he stops doing that, he'll stop suffering, and Chase says that William is dead, and you can tell that Chase is saying this to Oliver so he can get Oliver to kill him, and the old Oliver would have just done that. He walks up to him, and he knows that Chase is lying. He doesn't believe for a second, and I love that he says, look, if he's dead, then where is he? And Felicity gets in touch with Oliver, says that she says specifically, look, you cannot kill Chase, and right when you think it's going to be another pep talk, it goes to a more interesting direction, and probably the most, we find out that he has the explosive. Obviously, Oliver's just not going to let him get away. That's not how this is going to go. We see in a flashback, Oliver then dons a wig as a Chinese fishing boat approaches Lian, and in the present day, Oliver watches Chase motor away on a boat, and he manages to jump aboard the boat before it leaves and starts fighting Chase again, and I love the way that was done, where he is chasing him off this boat, and then we get something that we've been waiting for, where we see the opening scene of Arrow replay again, where he shoots the bonfire to signal a fisherman escape from the island. That's how this entire show started. Was him, shooting this bonfire to get this fisherman's attention and finally get off that island, and knowing that he did this to get away from Kovar, who very well could, well, he did actually kill Kovar, I don't know what I'm saying, he actually did kill Kovar, but now we're seeing what really transpired, that he was there in an act of desperation to get the hell off that island, and in the present, and I thought again, it was just a great callback to the show, and really to show how far Oliver has come, how much he wouldn't do something like that now, and how he is so determined to catch Chase. I just thought all of that tied in so well together, and it really does go into show how great the show has done, how great the show has done with Oliver's character all season. So in the present day, Oliver's being chased up some more, and finally in this moment, Chase reveals his actual plan all along, which, sure, Chase has had a plan, but his motives have been quite unclear. We know obviously that he's wanted to break the Green Arrow, but we see that there's a lot more to it. Basically, his plan is to get Oliver off the island so that he can watch all his friends die, we find out. That's what he really wants to do. He wants to make sure that all of his friends are able to die. But it turns out that Chase sabotaged his own plane so none of Oliver's friends could escape. That's why he did. He didn't do it so Oliver couldn't get off the island. He did so Oliver could get off the island while everyone else just died. Because again, they're so disposable to Chase. These are just people that Oliver cares about. If he kills them, then he'll get Oliver back into that killer persona that he wants him to be. He's doing whatever he can to break him and harden him, but Oliver just won't budge. He's not going back into that personality anymore. And that was the great thing about this episode, is that season 4 and season 3, Oliver would have done that. He would have gone back to that killer personality, but he's realizing he just can't do that anymore. And he then pulls William out of the boat's cabin, and we see that William is very well alive. He is alive, and a lot of people have said that William is a MacGuffin on the show, that he's not really a character, and I really argue with that. I think this episode shows that William is in fact a character, and he's very vital to this show, and he's just as important as, Robert Queen really was. He really is, because again, it's someone else in Oliver's life that he really cares about, that he's held himself accountable for all his life. Even something as simple as having a child with Samantha is still something that Oliver has always held himself accountable for. So he gives Oliver a choice, which is basically life or death, that if he either kills Chase and saves his son, or he lets Chase live and watch all of his friends die. So it's insane. If he kills Chase, all of his friends are going to die, but if he saves his son, he lets Chase live, which is just insane. If he does either one of those, someone is going to die, and Oliver is not just going to do that. He pretends to put his bow down. It seems that he is going to try to it seems that he's going to put his bow down so that way he can, make it seem like he's going to let Chase live. But he shoots Chase in the leg instead. He's not just going to let him get away. And we see in the final flashback of the season, Oliver calls his mother. Yeah, we see Moira make an appearance here, which I loved. And he tells her that he's alive and he's coming home, and this essentially started up the show. This is how he got home. This is how Moira knew he was alive. And again, even though we knew this was all coming, just seeing Moira's reaction, realizing that her son's actually alive and that he actually is there after all these years, was just really satisfying to see. And I think it's the perfect capper to these flashbacks. And again, I'll talk about where I think the history of the flashbacks are going to go from here. But we have to get into this ending because holy shit, Chase says that Oliver has won, but that it'll be pretty lonely without all his friends and family. And Oliver's like, what the fuck are you talking about? They're alive. I mean, I got William, I got everything I need. What else could possibly happen? And then Chase does the unthinkable. I mean, I think we knew that Chase definitely was pushing Oliver to his limit. I don't think anyone expected him to do this because he pulls out a gun and shoots himself, which triggers all of the explosives on Lian Yu, and it ends with Lian Yu erupting into explosions. Oliver looks very sad, knowing that everyone in the show could very well be dead, and that is the way this finale ends. Let's just get into this episode and where the hell the show goes from there, because honestly, I have no idea. So, holy shit, guys. I mean, just, wow. Again, here's something that's so great about this show is that in any other superhero show, when Felicity called telling Oliver that, that they were all in grave danger, you're like, alright, they're not gonna die, right? Like, obviously, they can't die. They're all main characters. There's no way that's gonna happen. Look, I knew someone was going to die in this finale. I really did. I knew someone very near and dear to Oliver was probably going to die because the way they were teasing the promo. And Arrow has not let us down this season. I didn't think they were going to tease us and, not have anyone die. They've done, too many shows in the past. Arrow usually does not do that. When they say someone's going to die, they stick to it. And I never expected something like this to go down. The fact that everyone in the show could be dead right now is insane to think about, but at the same time, I think it's the right direction for the show, because what does it do? It rids Oliver of everything. He is going to feel accountable for this, but at the same time, he had nothing to do with it, and this is exactly the way for Oliver to start over again, to possibly train William. He now has William by his side, who I think is going to be a much more vital part of the show next season. I just feel like it kind of is inevitable that that's what's going to happen here. But this is insane. I didn't think Chase would live. I really did not think that they were going to let him live. I love what we've gotten to Josh Segarra on the show, but I did not think Chase was going to live. I just thought there was no way that was going to happen. As far as where we're going next season, I have no idea, honestly. How do you really predict what's going to happen after all that? I mean, everyone could possibly be dead. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I don't think everyone is dead. I think there's definitely a large amount of people that are, in fact, dead. But either there are decoys or they found a way to get out of there. I don't think this is going to be as, as concrete as it seems. I don't think we're going to get a concrete answer at first. In fact, I think this is going to be quite messy. I think we're going to go into Season 6 and maybe we won't know for a while what's going to happen. In fact, I think we're still going to be on the island in Season 6. I wouldn't be surprised if we still are there. But the more and more I think about it, I think next season probably is the final season. It just kind of makes the most sense the way this went down. This very much felt like they are setting up for the final season, and I wouldn't be surprised if they are, because it just kind of seems like this is the direction for the show to go in. And again, I have no idea where we're going from here. William, again, he's going to be a big part of this show in some way. I think either Oliver's going to train him, he's going to try to get more people. There is definitely, still people he can get. There's Roy. Roy's still out there. He could always use Roy to his advantage if he needs him. He could possibly, what's the other dude's name? The dude that was on the show for the beginning when he was in the crew and then he had to leave. Rory. He could use Rory as well. He's out there. I mean, there's still possibilities what Oliver can do, but really the possibilities are endless. And the fact that Arrow actually went here just shows how ballsy of a season this really is. And I have no idea where we're going, and I'm glad. I don't want to know where we're going, honestly. Most times that this happened in the show, I would be extremely frustrated, being like, oh, why'd you have to do this? I can't wait till the summer. But that's what a season finale is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you wait in agony till the fall. And that's exactly what this episode did. I have no idea where we're going, and yes, I'm going to be trying to figure out all of these next 4 months or however long we have till the show comes back on where the hell they're going with the show from here. But I don't really care, honestly, because of how well this finale was done. Honestly, if it hadn't been for Oliver's friends dying, I would not be surprised if this was a series finale. It very much felt like a series finale. Malcolm's dead. I'm saying that right now. Merlin is definitely dead. There's no way that he's not. It felt like the best way to close out his character, and I think that Merlin is probably dead, and I think Felicity's dead too. It just kind of made sense with the way her and Oliver depart. I think that she possibly might be dead. I don't think Thea's dead. Will Holland said they're never going to kill her off, but again, she could have been trolling. I mean, Manu Bennett trolled, so she definitely could have been lying to protect what was going to happen, obviously, because she didn't want anyone to try to figure it out. Why the CW was so secretive about the details regarding this finale, because it was such a big episode, and if they revealed anything, I mean, it would have ruined the entire finale, and there's so many directions we can go from with this show. As far as the flashbacks go, I think we're kind of done, honestly. I do think that there is still a possibility that we might see flashbacks here and there, maybe some stuff with Slade, because we did find out that Chase did do something to his son. I don't know if Slade, I don't know if he's actually still alive. I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna be one of the ones that come back. But if he does, I do think we might get a few more flashbacks there. I just don't really know what's really gonna happen with that. I do think that we might just be done with the flashbacks, and it makes sense too. I think we really did come full circle with that phone call from Moira. I think it makes the most sense for them to do that. Overall, guys, this finale was really everything that I wanted to be. I mean, again, there's not really a ton I can predict because I have no idea where the show is going to go from here. And like I said, normally I'd be pissed if a show does that, but with this, it really made a lot of sense why they decided to go in this direction. The fact that they went here, again, it really does show how great this season has really become and really just how aware and what they really want to do here. I mean, sure, there are definitely some things they could have tied up, but I really did enjoy what we did get here. Guys, in every way, this is exactly the finale that we needed, and I am absolutely going to give Arrow Season 5, Episode 23, Lian Yu, a 5 out of 5 or an A+. This is everything I could have wanted out of an Arrow finale. It was so satisfying, so heartbreaking, and ultimately just really was a great reflection over the past 5 seasons of the show. It's everything that I've wanted this show to do. It's everything I love about the show, and it's been a while since a finale has hit me as hard as this one has, but the fact that this was such a ballsy finale and really did take us into this very unknown territory for the show really does show how confident the show has become, and that's really one of the things that propelled this season forward in general, and is one of the things that further did enhance this show as a whole. But now, guys, let's talk about the season, which we won't talk very long about because you guys know I fucking love this season. I mean, it's really no secret that this season was incredible and was everything that the show really needed. Look, I'll be the first to admit, I did defend Season 4. I did, because I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. Sure, it did go very off the rails at some points, and I don't think Arrow ever needs to be dealing with a magician, but Dark was so entertaining and was just so fun to watch, and we got some good stuff out of that season that the good kind of outweighed the bad for me. Season 3, I think, is the lowest point of the show. I've talked about it before. I think when Oliver joined the League of Assassins, that's the lowest point of the show. Season 4 definitely did have some really shitty things, like him and Felicity never really talking things over. This season really fixed that, though. Why? Because it kept things really damn simple, and I'm glad they kept things simple. When this show overcompensates, it doesn't work, and when it decides to go in these more simplistic directions, it does work. But through going into a simplistic direction, it really did go more into Oliver's psyche, and really did show how far Oliver has come as a character. I mean, sure, he was killing the beginning of the season, but it's not nearly to the extent of what he used to, and I really did love the way the show did center on that this season. I thought that was incredibly well done, the way they did that. Also, the way they made use of the team, I thought was a lot better than they've done in seasons past. The team felt a lot more vital, and it felt like the team was a lot more equal this season. Like, there really wasn't anyone that, sure, maybe Wild Dog was kind of the leader of this new team, but it didn't really feel like he was above anyone else. They were all just kind of operating on their own level, and they felt vulnerable and human. None of them felt like these superhuman characters that we've had in past seasons, and I was very happy the show did that. In fact, everyone this season felt a little more human. Diggle had an amazing arc. Lance had an amazing arc. They really knew how to utilize these characters very well. Sure, Felicity was kind of the one they didn't really know what to do with. If I did have to have one complaint with this season, that it was simply too long. I will definitely say that. 23 episodes was a lot, and there were definitely some episodes that we really didn't need. Some of the one-offs I thought were a bit unnecessary, but what I love about the season is that a lot of the season didn't have a lot of one-offs. There were not a lot of one-offs this season. A lot of the season did focus mainly only on Prometheus, who is the best villain I think the show has ever had, without a doubt. I mean, he's just so menacing. What he's willing to do to Oliver, just all of that stuff was so well done. Josh Segarra was just incredible all season long. I loved what we got out of him. I think he was absolutely incredible on this show. And I do think some of the other arcs, like maybe what they did with Rory, things like that, they could have maybe tied up just a little bit better, and I think they could have used just a little bit more with him. Thea, as well, as a character that was very in and out this season. I don't know if Willa, Holland had other projects, but it very much did seem that way. They definitely could have used a lot more with her this season. Overall, though, guys, there's really not much to complain about when it comes to the season, because this is in every way much more what I want Arrow to be. This was definitely a game-changing season for the show. It's very telling, how aware they really are themselves, and they really did need a season like this to really pull them out of the rubble. I know a lot of people said the season has been ultra dark, because yes, it has, but it's also been very fun. There's been some very fun moments this season. They found a way to really counterbalance those two together in the way that Arrow used to do it, and it really did feel like classic Arrow again, and that's what made the season so damn great. And I'm absolutely going to give the Season of Arrow Season 5 a 4.75 out of 5, or an A. Like I said, guys, this is definitely more or less what Arrow should be every season long. It was darker, but it also did find a way to have some great comedic bits. The flashbacks were better. The villain was more consistent. We had a really threatening villain throughout the season who found a way to be original, but also really did help us really just recapture all of the moments of what Oliver has really been through. It did more for the supporting cast. In general, it just really gave us, I think, what is by far Arrow's best season yet. At any time that I felt like I was out of the season, it found a way to pull me back in a way that Arrow hasn't really done before. It also felt like the most mature of all the CW superhero shows. It's easily the best season that we've had out of all of them, and now is definitely the one to be, and hopefully is setting up for what I think is the final season, because if it is setting up for the final season, it definitely does seem the way, especially by the way this finale left off, and I think definitely this would be the best way to go out, especially with the show as good as it is right now. This would definitely be the right time to close out the show. And with that, guys, that's it. This season of Arrow has finally come to an end. And again, I have no idea where we're going from here. Absolutely no idea. And I'm fine with that. I don't want to predict. I really don't want to predict, because I feel like whatever I have is completely different than what the writers have planned out. So I don't really know where the show's going to go. I don't think they're all dead. I think there definitely is a fraction of the team that's still alive, but we'll have to see really what's going to happen there. Let me know what you guys thought of this finale. Loved your thoughts on it. Thank you guys for watching my reviews all season as always. Always really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for the remake of Dirty Dancing, which you guys know how I feel about that, but I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.